Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be going through what I read in June, which was quite a lot actually. I DNF'd 2 books in June and both of those were LGBTQ plus romances. Now romances for me aren't generally what I subscribe to anyway, so that was Love and Other Disasters and If This Gets Out, and they just weren't for me apparently, so there we are. Now let's actually get into what I did read. It's quite a lot, so I've written them all down because otherwise I would 100% forget. So the first thing I read, and actually I've been reading this one since February and it's been on my Goodreads for ages, and this was the Lunar Book Club for February's pick, so I'm really behind. And the Lunar Book Club is run by lwet through Waypoint Books, which is, all the links are down below, but it's a monthly surprise book that we vote for the genre in Hannah's Discord, so that's really fun. So, and that book was Cold Boys Wood by Carol Birch, and as you can tell I've tabbed it, and I've tabbed it a lot. I actually ended up really enjoying this one. It's a mystery thriller, it's kind of insidious, there is no plot, that's what I will say about this, it's all just vibes, and some people didn't like it. I can see why they didn't like it, but I love insidious books that are just weird. That is almost what I look for in a book. So this was absolutely up my alley. Loved every minute of this book. Great fun. Then I read Rhapsodic, which is not mine, it's Hannah's. But this is a fae love story and it's ridiculous. It might be the most ridiculous book I've read in a while. It's silly, but it also knows that, and it's not trying to step out of its lane. It's like Sarah J Maas kind of levels, but like worse writing probably. But I gave it 3 stars actually, and I am going to be continuing the series at some point because I'm just intrigued about where this could be going. And yeah, one of the ones that I'm kind of like, shouldn't have liked it, but I did. So then the next thing I listened to, actually, but now I have a physical copy, My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, and I actually really enjoyed this. But at the end I was like, what the fuck is going on? But again, in books, that's what I seem to look for. This is a final girl story, it's a horror story, and what I will say is Stephen Graham Jones knows his stuff when it comes to horror, and he loves a final girl. And he's a very good writer, he's a new to me author, and I'm trying to go through his backlist now. But this one follows Jade, and she believes that a new girl is going to be the final girl. And we follow her like little adventure as things start to unfold. And it didn't go the way I thought it was going to, but I really did enjoy this one. And I'm going to definitely reread this at some point and probably tab the hell out of it. But it was really fun. So this one got 4 stars because the ending confused me. So then I continued on my Lord of the Rings reread and listened to The Two Towers, which is the Andy Serkis version. And again, this got 5 stars. I absolutely love Lord of the Rings, as you know. And I've linked the Middle-earth-a-thon readathon that's coming up at the end of August. So check that out in whatever corner the thing goes. It's linked somewhere and down below. But again, this got 5 out of 5 stars. Tolkien does a great job with world building and language, and his characters are great. So as a reread goes, Andy Serkis' audiobooks are the way I would probably choose to read them now. Then I read, well, I'm doing these out of order actually, I know I am, but basically I did a vlog earlier this month which was books that will fuck me up and they'll make me cry and they'll be really sad. And after that I really wanted a palette cleanser, and I had started the couple of days before The Girl Who Drank the Moon. Again, I borrowed this one from Hannah's bookshelves because I thought I needed something happy, and like, jokes on me, it wasn't happy. That one also made me cry and it was really sad, but as a middle grade goes, it's really beautiful. It follows a witch who lives in the middle of the woods and a nearby village that seems to be sacrificing children to her, and unbeknownst to her, she is part of a plot to keep the villagers compliant, and she is taking these babies to another village across the woods, and she feeds them starlight, and those are like starborn children. And then she basically messes up one day and accidentally feeds the child moonlight, which is way too strong, and it turns the child into this witch, and it follows this child's journey and the truth of like what's been going on this whole time. and it's a really nice story about like love and loss. And I think in the middle grade it's really lovely. So some of the books I read for that vlog that I just mentioned was The Bees, which is one book that is going to stay with me for a long time. It got 5 out of 5 stars. It follows a bee colony and a worker bee of like lowest class, which is a Flora, and she seems to be like showing unusual signs for what her class should be, which is basically like the cleaning staff essentially. And they are humanized, these bees, although they're still as bees, but like their personalities are quite human. So I keep reminding myself as I was reading it that they were bees, but the ending of that made me cry my eyes out. I was so attached to Flora and her whole story, and it's like a dystopian story. It's literally The Handmaid's Tale but bees. And it's just disturbing, and so many things happen, and now every time I see a bumblebee, or any bee for that matter, I'm like, oh my gosh, your life is so hard. Then for that vlog as well, I read The Cabinet by Eunsu Kim, and this was translated by Sean Lynn Holbert, and this book is wild. It's basically a book of short stories that are all part of like a plot in between those short stories of a man who collects them and like keeps these files secret in this cabinet. And it's of this man trying to like figure out what the hell's going on, and it's just wild. Like there's a really hardcore torture scene at the end that is a lot. I wasn't expecting it, but it was kind of gross. And there's also a lot of scenes of sexual nature. There's literally one called The Doppelganger, and essentially explains about a man who has a doppelganger, and the first thing he does is have sex with himself. So it's a bit weird, but I did enjoy this one. It got 4 stars. Again, I like weird books, but trigger warnings, obviously check them out before you read it. For that same vlog, I read If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura, and this book destroyed me. And this book follows a man who has essentially wasted his entire life. He gets told that he has less than like a month to live or something because he's got cancer, and he gets visited by the devil, who posits scenarios of, well, if you get rid of this thing, you will live. And like it kind of builds up very, very slowly. And then the last question is, well, I'll let you live another day if cats no longer were in the world. And it's a very beautiful story. I'm not going to spoil it, but it made me bawl. And yeah, this one got 5 out of 5 stars as well, I think. So this was an absolutely beautiful story. Very, 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 very sad. I also read for that same vlog Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Core, and this one was unhauled to me by Bookish Gems, and Gemma told me I wouldn't like this, and I said, well, you know, I've seen loads of things about it, it looks like it's really spooky, and Gemma was like, no, it's shit. And I read it, and I just was bored the entire time. Like, I can't tell you like how much of a disappointment this was, because I was expecting this to be like Spook City, and then it was just like minor spook, you know, like it was just a bit like like I expected so much more of it. And because it's so short, I think the problem is that we didn't get any development from like anyone, and I didn't really care about the characters. I thought they were annoying, and I was kind of waiting for something to happen to them, and I don't know, it just suffered a lot from how short this book is and how boring the characters were. So I gave Nothing But Blackened Teeth 3 stars because it was fine. Like there was nothing inherently like terrible about it. It was just eh. Then I read The Cat Who Saved Books by Sasuke Natsukawa, and this again is just a lovely story about books. And I think this is probably a middle grade, the closest thing I read to a middle grade. That wasn't The Guy That Drank the Moon, but this follows a gentleman, well, a young boy, teenager probably, whose granddad dies, and he's been living with his grandparents, and his granddad was his last family member, basically. And his grandfather owned a used bookshop of like rare and like old books, of like first editions, you know, like really old special books. And the main character in this loves reading, and he loves his grandpa's bookshop. And essentially his aunt is saying, you're going to come live with me, so we need to pack everything up, we need to put the bookshop for sale. And so this main character drops out of school, and he then gets visitations from this ginger cat who's like this kind of like omniscient kind of like presence who is trying to help save books, and it's all these these scenarios, and it's like working out the problem. It's like, it's portal fantasy essentially, and it's showing Rentaro like grow into his own and show that he can solve all these problems. And it's just a really lovely story again, but it is sad, but it's also really hopeful. And if you love books, like, I think you should definitely read this, because it'll make your heart like swell, because it's so pretty. Like, it's a lovely, lovely story. And I gave that one 4 stars. I also listened to, this month, I finished off my reread of Lord of the Rings with Return of the King. Again, this has got 5 stars. This is probably my favourite out of the series, out of the trilogy. I think it's a fantastic last book in a series. I think Tolkien did a wonderful job of like closing it out essentially. And yes, the endings are long and they are different from the film, so they're actually very, very different, almost unrecognisable. So I enjoyed it. I think, yeah, Andy Serkis does a wonderful job. So 5 out of 5 stars. Again, Middle-earth-a-thon, linked somewhere. Also this month, I buddy read The Hazel Wood by Melissa Albert, and this was actually supposed to be one of the books I read for Book Wanderers, but I have a brain like a sieve apparently, and I totally forgot. But I buddy read this with Hannah, because she also had a copy and Hannah was rereading it, and like, this was fun. I'm not going to be continuing the series, I don't think. I liked the wood aspect and I liked the kind of like build up, but there were certain characters I feel like were underused. Like, I don't understand what happened with Finch, the character of Finch. Like, I really don't understand what happened there, and it's just a little bit underdeveloped, but I did really enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars in the end. I don't know, it's not the best for me, but it's YA, and it's, yeah, it's fairy tales, so good fun. Then I basically had some books that I had on my Goodreads for a long time. I just wanted to get them off. So I finally finished House of Sky and Breath. I had read about 200 pages probably beforehand, and I just stopped it. Like, I stopped reading it, but actually it was, we were watching Ali from Hardback Quarters, like 24-hour live reading thing where she reads the entirety of House of Sky and Breath, and their live show kind of spurred me on to be like, right, well, you should probably finish it now, because if you don't now, you're probably never going to, kind of vibe. And this book is classic Sarah J Maas, where she keeps you hanging until like the last 200 pages, and then like everything goes from like 0 to 100 real quick. And I actually finished this book and I threw it to the floor. Unfortunately, it bounced and then nearly hit Hannah, and that was really awkward. Like, I wasn't actually trying to hit Hannah with it, but I hated this ending. I'm so mad. Like, I knew there was going to be a crossover to Qatar, but like, I am mad. Like, I don't need this in my life. Like, I don't like Rhysand. I don't think he's the best thing since sliced bread. I think he has a lot to fucking answer for. And I'm mad now that I have to deal with him in another series. And like, I also don't like that they've put this in the same universe. Like, I liked them being separate, and like, I'm not being funny, but if Sarah J Maas puts like Throne of Glass crap into this, like, I might be out. The thing that I like about this book is Hunt and Bryce, and I like their relationship. I liked the twists and the turns. I loved the like rebellion side of this. I like learning more about the Mer. And I'm like, that's super interesting. And I loved what they did with like the scientific stuff and like bringing in new people like the Phoenixes. Like, that's loads and loads of fun. And like trying to figure out who the Astari are. Like, it's really fun. I just don't need ACOTAR to be included within this. This got 3 stars, by the way, which for 800 pages, I feel like I was cheated. This one I read as like a little like palette cleanser essentially, but it's The Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag, and this is so freaking cute. This is a Selkie and human romance, and it tells the story of a girl who wants to explore her sexuality, has a dream of a girl, and they like fall in love, they kiss, and then next day this girl appears, and turns out this girl is a Selkie, and their love story like blossoms and grows, and it follows Morgan and like her trying to figure out where she is placed in the world, and like who she wants to be and who she wants to be with her friends and all of that. And it's just a really beautiful, lovely, easy story, and it's got a very cute art style. Like, it's just, the colours are very like summery, and yeah, I really enjoyed this one. And I did think it was mermaids to begin with, but it's not. She's actually a Selkie, So this got 4 out of 5 stars. Another one now that was on my Goodreads for a long time, and that was The Desert Prince by Peter V. Brett. Now, this is actually a companion series to Peter V. Brett's, I don't remember what it's called. No, I can't remember what the companion, what the original series is called. But this follows the children of the original series. If I can find out, I'll probably put something down there which says what it is. But this follows Olive, who starts off as a princess, and we very quickly learn that they actually are of both gender. They have both female and male genitalia, and essentially that becomes a very essential part of the plot. But Olive is the main character. We also follow Darren, who is Olive's cousin, and he's not like part of high society, whereas she is. And gender and identity in this is super, super, super important, because it's the difference between how Olive is treated as a girl, who is basically sold off and kidnapped for political gain to marry a prince, and how when they find out that actually they have male genitalia, they are treated like a male, and how they are strong, and when he is a he is treated with, well, it's not respect, it's brutal, it's hard work, but they're strong. And sexuality in this is super, super interesting, because although LGBTQ+ isn't frowned upon, it's like, well, you can fool about, but like, you're gonna have to marry a girl, because we need to like get the reign, like get the like line continuing, you know. But it's like battles with demons. This is a complex story, and again, it's really, really, really big. I picked this up at completely the wrong time when I first started this, and I'm glad I picked it up again and gave it another chance, because this is absolutely incredible. I've not really seen many other books with intersex in it, apart from the only one I can think of is Across the Green Grass Fields by oh my gosh, who is it by? Am I being really stupid? One sec. Shauna Maguire. I was like, it's not Cassandra Clare, and I couldn't even remember why I had Cassandra Clare in my head, because there's literally no reason for it. But by Shauna Maguire. Like, that's literally the only other place where I've seen intersex rep. Like, if you've got any recommendations for me, like, you can just put them down in the comments down below. I'd be really appreciative, because I find it a very super interesting thing to read about. Then Hannah ran a start to finish reading sprints on one Sunday. She does them monthly now, and I'm trying to get on all of them because it gives me a whole day reading. But I actually buddy read this with Hannah, and that was Ghosted by Jen Ashworth. Now, before anyone picks this up, you need to look at trigger warnings, because there's a bunch of them in here. I did not like this at the start, and I actively disliked it. There was a really awkward sex scene, and it was like a pseudo sex scene. It was just kind of gross, and I was like, why am I doing this? And this book kept me guessing, and it kind of got weirder as the book like progressed. And as I said, I'm a hoe for weird books, so you know me. I actually really, 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 really enjoyed this one. So I gave this one 4 stars. Then on that same live show, I read Baby Teeth, and this one, again, I borrowed it from Hannah. It's a novel in verse. It's sapphic vampires, and again, I was disappointed. It was just boring. Unfortunately, it was just boring. So that got 3 stars, and I believe Hannah is unhauling it. Then I listened to The Psalm of the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, and this was good. Like, it was good. It was a nice story. It followed a tea monk as he tried to do like a pilgrimage, and he meets a robot, and robots haven't been seen in the world for like millennia. And they have this really cool like back and forth, and like he hasn't got any clothes on, I don't think, because he was just like washing, and like then this robot randomly was like, oh hey, hi, and like this robot just wants to know like how he can help, and it's adorable. The new one, I think there is the second one in the series coming out like this year at some point, and I will be carrying it on because it's just cute. Then I listened to 2 audiobooks on Hannah's recommendation, and those are Punching the Air, it's the first one, and Punching the Air follows a young black boy who was incarcerated for a crime he didn't do. It's highly emotional, it packs an emotional punch, and again, trigger warnings, all that jazz, but I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The other book that Hannah recommended I read was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I read Clap When You Land last year, loved it. Again, novel in verse, so I was punching the air, sorry if I didn't say that. But Poet X, beautiful. It was like it's just a great novel, and I think if you haven't read Elizabeth Acevedo, like, go and pick her up, look up at trigger warnings, but I would say have a look at it. Like, the LGBTQ characterizations, fabulous, and just generally great writing. Then I listened to The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, massive content warnings for animal death. The whole book is essentially animal death, and it's brutal animal death. Like, it's not like sweet and nice, it's a lot. It's something you have to be prepared for going in, and it was really, like, it was a lot. Horror, Stephen Graham Jones, again, he loves a final girl, and it's definitely a book of two halves, because, like, there's a big confrontation slap bang in the middle of the book, and because I was listening to this, I was like, oh my gosh, we still have like 2 hours to go. So then the book kind of changes completely, and it's just wild. But I gave that 4 out of 5 stars in the end, but it's a lot. And then the last book I have listened to is Learn My Lesson by Katie Roberts, and this is part of her Wicked Villains series, and it follows Meg, Hercules and Hades, and a polyamorous relationship, and I fucking loved it. But they keep on calling, like, Hercules Golden Boy, and I just loved it. And, like, I think Katie Roberts is a great erotica writer. I'm currently reading A Worthy Opponent, which is number 3, and I don't like it as much as Learn My Lesson, but it's not bad. That brings me on to the next thing I was going to say. I'm currently listening to A Worthy Opponent, and I'm also reading Iron Widow, which I am loving. I'm probably not going to finish it before the 1st, because it's the 28th now, and I'm only like 100 and something pages in, like 128 pages, but fabulous writing, great book. Like, genuinely, I'm loving everything I'm reading. I'm loving the strong feminist vibes. I'm loving the fact that we have a protagonist who's just murdering, like, full on, just being like, no, I'm gonna kill his ass. Like, it doesn't seem to be like a love thing. I know there's going to be romance in it at some point, but I thought something was going to happen, and then I was really wrong. And I just really love the main character so much. Like, she's amazing. So I cannot wait to finish that one. So I have been filming for half an hour with this wrap up, so I should probably, you know, wrap it up. And so if you have read any of these books or listened to any of the audiobooks I've mentioned, please let me know down in the comments below, and like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.